All right, let's have a little more fun. This clip. This is from an hour-long interview on Piers Morgan, and I seriously contemplated dedicating the entire front half to this. But this is a compilation. Was it put together by Piers Morgan?
It's put together by Twitter user that's really great on this stuff, at @TheBadStats, TheBadStats.
Now, just a little bit of background, and I only know so much because there's only so much
science.
Eric Weinstein that I can handle, and in science. But Eric Weinstein, he was doing this about a year or two ago, right? Or it was 3 years ago?
Up to like 4 years ago, he has a geometric unity theory with, some parts that aren't exactly filled in all the way about like the Shiab operator.
Well, let's not us editorialize on that. Because you're not a physics professor, nor am I.
No.
You're not a physics scientist, nor am I. You're not a researcher. You don't do anything like that. So we're not going to judge.
An English major.
You're an English major. I did a little religion and political science. But we are viewers. And so we have seen Eric Weinstein on countless podcasts going on talking about how he is an autodidact when it comes to physics. And he has figured out some grand theory about physics. And he is being completely neglected. No one will deal with his theory because it could be so revolutionary that in many ways probably embarrassed a lot of scientists.
He also has a theory about the distributed idea suppression complex, or DISC, which is, partially in why he's not, have the Nobel Prize.
Are you making up?
No, he made that.
Okay, I just want to make that clear.
He coined the distributed idea suppression complex.
Okay, so there is a distributed idea suppression complex that
we're a part of course.
That we are a part of. We're like the we're like the pawns, essentially.
Yeah, we're just tendrils.
And he's going out there. He's got this like incredible physics theory that nobody's showing any respect for. And so Piers Morgan had what number is this?
Oh, it's let's see.
Piers Morgan brought Eric Weinstein on with 13. A guy named Sean Carroll. Sean Carroll is a physicist. And where is he affiliated with the university?
Sean Carroll, it looks like, is educated at Villanova and Harvard. I'm not sure. Or is at California State Institute of Technology right now.
Okay. Cal State Tech. Whatever.
In 2007, Carroll was named NSF, National Science Foundation's Distinguished Lecturer by the National Science Foundation.
Oh, right. Okay. Well, probably the heart of the disc. But here he is talking to Eric Weinstein, and honestly, like the first time The Walking Dead came on, and you would say, if someone had never seen it, you're like, this is going to be a little bit gory. This might make you feel uncomfortable. I would give you the same warning.
Can I make another analogy? This is like, there's a TikTok thing where it's like, we put a amateur professional basketball player to go join this like street ball match, and they cleaned up. That's sort of like what happens here.
I would like to let people out there know who might be working outside the academic physics community that it is 100% possible to have a good idea and have it have an impact on what physicists do. But it's not easy. You have to do a certain amount of work to show that your theory is worth the time, that it is respectable, that it is interesting, that it is promising. The first thing you got to do is make sure that your theory makes contact with modern physics as it is understood. If you have a new paper out, physicists are going to look at it. They're going to look for, where's the Lagrangian? Where's the interactions? Is the proton stable? Is there dark matter? Like, how does it fit into what I already know?
Those are all different levels of the stack, Sean.
Eric's paper has none of that. You would also ask, has the theory been shown to be viable in a very basic way? Is it stable? Is it free of anomalies? Is it finite in the sense of the quantum mechanical calculation that I already mentioned? Again, none of that is there. Are there any new predictions? Eric says, and completely correctly, string theory doesn't make any new predictions either. But also, I really don't want people to get the idea that string theory has some dominant picture. In my department at Johns Hopkins, we have, let me just finish and then you can talk. I think it's a good system. In my department at Johns Hopkins, we have 6 professors in the theoretical physics group. One of them does string theory, and even he only does it sort of half-time. I wish we had more, honestly. This is very typical. Even at the most stringy departments, it's maybe half the people who do string theory. There are plenty of other approaches being advocated, and many of them do make different predictions, and we're looking for them.
Just to explain really briefly, Eric Weinstein says, well, if string theory can get away with some of this stuff, which he'll explain why string theory is valued, why can't mine? That's all this is about.
Right. And the other thing that Sean Carroll is explaining is that we're not just dedicated to string theory. We have a lot of other people doing a lot of other, pursuing a lot of other theories.
Not that Eric would know anything about that.
No. Well, of course, because DISC inhibits that type of communication. We should also say that Carroll is now at Johns Hopkins.
All right, gotcha.
And astrophysics and elsewhere. And finally, does your theory solve any interesting problems that we already thought we had? That's the reason why string theory became interesting, because we had this problem with quantum gravity, that it gave infinite answers, and string theory solved that problem. And again, I see none of that in Eric's paper. So it's very possible that somewhere in Eric's theory there are interesting ideas, but he has given us no reason to think that it is a promising theory. I encourage other people who would like to have an impact on the research agenda of modern physics to take these easy steps rather than going on podcasts and talking about their victimization.
I do all sorts of things that you have no idea of, because your attitude, which you repeat in other podcasts, and I highly advise you to spend more time in your physics department and less time on YouTube, is that this is not a serious thing. Nobody's taking.
I mean, a little bit pot.
My God. This, I just love the idea that, you would go on to a show and get indignant because it's quite clear the person I'm having a debate with is not aware of the other things I do when I'm not here.
And all over you, the guy most on YouTube is like, stay off of YouTube.
But it's just like the idea that you don't know all the different things I do. I took a walk today in the park. Also, this weekend I saw a movie. I bet you didn't know that. Did you know that I bowl on occasion? No, you don't. You couldn't possibly know. You couldn't possibly know that I did paintball just 6 months ago. Nor were you aware of the fact that sometimes I do synchronized swimming. I do so many things that you have no idea about, sir.
Is that this is not a serious thing. Nobody's taking it seriously. And your misportrayal of
Just go back to get that part and their reaction.
Of things that you have no idea of, because your attitude, which you repeat in other podcasts, and I highly advise you to spend more time in your physics department and less time on YouTube, is that this is not a serious thing. Nobody's taking it seriously. And your misportrayal of the situation is nearly constant for reasons that completely elude me.
Pause it for a second. Pause it for a second. No, keep the image up there. Because I want you to look at Piers Morgan's face. Because Piers Morgan is going to himself, cannot believe I'm watching this complete meltdown. He is sitting there going the person who booked this on my show is going to get a fucking medal.
Popping bottles tonight.
Oh my God. He is just this is Fantastic. It is one of those moments where, and this is the thing that Piers Morgan's job, I envy on some level, because all he does is he puts like people in there, and his whole job is to sometimes just like not smile. Like, I just have to pretend like I'm showing respect. And it's just, I'm going
Well,
to.
I'm stirring shit.
I'm doing nothing. I'm just watching this physics professor gut Eric Weinstein in front of me. And I'm just going to pretend like I am not like laughing. Like, I would imagine there was literally like tremors in his throat where he's just turn my mic down. My God.
The good news is I have read Eric's paper. Here it is. I actually have it here, right here. And it's worse than you would think. You know, it just very quickly, it starts off by saying the author is not a physicist and is no longer an active academician, but is an entertainer and host of a podcast. This work of entertainment is a draft work in progress, and it may not be built upon. So we're not allowed.
That is a cut by the Piers Morgan people, incidentally, to heighten how sort of like brutal this is. This is like, you know, the slow-mo close-up of like the actual, like, if this was Walking Dead, this is the slow-mo of like, you know, whatever, the weapon, you know, crushing across somebody's face.
This is bullet time in the Matrix.
It starts off by saying the author. The good news is I have read Eric's paper. Here it is. I actually have it here, right here. And
Piers almost
it's
loses.
worse than you would think. You know,
He's
it
got his
just
scratches
very
in it.
quickly, it starts off by saying the author is not a physicist and is no longer an active academician, but is an entertainer and host of a podcast. This work of entertainment is a draft work in progress, and it may not be built upon. So we're not allowed to think about Eric's theory and write a follow-up paper about it.
No, you're very
complete
much allowed, Sean.
to everything
But
that is normally done in scientific discourse. You hope that people build upon your theories. You don't try to prevent them. And then later on,
It's
it
my
says,
theory. No one else can take it. No one else can take it. No one. It is mine. No one's. Incidentally, if anybody talks about bleaching, putting bleach inside to get rid of the thing, that's my idea. Go ahead.
And then later on, it says,
Sean,
this
people
document
build
is an
upon my
attempt to
theories.
begin recovering. I'm going to read this. This document is an attempt to begin recovering a rather more complete theory, which at this point is only partially remembered and stitched together from old computer files, notebooks, recordings, and the like, dating back to as far as 1983. And this is why this paper is not going to appear in the peer-reviewed literature. It's not serious. It's a dog ate my homework kind of thing. If you have a dark matter thing, if you have a dark matter prediction, if you have a dark energy prediction, I want to see a plot in the paper. I want to see redshift versus
Sean,
distance. I want to see a calculation of a relic abundance so I can figure out how much dark matter is supposed to be. If you do that,
Sean.
people will pay attention to the theory. It's very possible.
Sean, first of all, how dare you? Second of all, if you're going to go
dare
by the
you read your
standards
paper?
of the No, Sean, how dare you cast shade and aspersions of the kind that I wouldn't seek to cast on you, but I will now.
Okay.
I'm not seeking your favor, nor do I need to seek your approval. As you know, you failed to gain tenure at the University of Chicago. You're not highly regarded in the field. And again, I'm only returning the shade in which you just yourself cast. I wouldn't have done this otherwise. You then spent time as a non-tenured faculty at Caltech, and you only gained tenure in a non-standard professorship. You're not a leading person in the field. My belief structure about this is that you imagine that I'm coming to you saying, "Oh, Sean Carroll, tell me which graph I should do so that I can please you." As you know, because you've read the paper, what you said about Lagrangians is false. What you said about predictions is false. My concern is what you did is that you seized upon something where people have built on my ideas since 1994. The equations that Natty Seiberg and Ed Witten introduced that took over the world were called the insufficiently nonlinear equations when I was at Harvard in 1987 and introduced them. The question of why Piers as an entertainer rather than as a physicist. First of all, neither you nor I are trained as physicists, Sean. You're actually trained as an astronomer. What you have in this situation is that you and I are both interloping in a field that is not the one to which we trained. That doesn't bother me about what you're doing. I've enjoyed some of your papers. I've thought very poorly of others. You have a wide range of interests. I think you're very creative. Your intellectually insulting aspect reminds me of you as the Marie Antoinette of theoretical physics influencers. I'm not here to please you. You know that there are tables in the document that you're reading that have plenty of predictions. You know that it solves plenty of problems. What you are doing is creating an environment of fear where every university worries, what does it mean to talk to this person? And what I would say to you is you are commenting on the effect that you are in fact inducing. You and a small cadre of people are like intellectual border collies of the physical sciences, casting shade and aspersions on those who are succeeding where the quantum gravity, string theoretic, and M theoretic programs are failing.
Sean?
Look, I mean, I didn't say anything about Eric as a person, his history, or anything like that. I said things about the paper. Everything he says about me is like 90% true, as many things he says. The paper is not giving us any reason to think that this approach is promising. There is no quantum mechanics in the paper. There's no attempt at showing that this solves any of the known problems of quantum gravity. Again, it's not just about Eric, it's about anyone. If you want to make an impact on the physics research community, you have to give them a reason to think that what you do is promising.
Sean, you have a serious problem with dark energy that you're developing, and it's going to go right through being a problem with lambda CDM to eventually being a problem with the Einstein field equations themselves, perched as they are atop the space of metrics as a completely inadequate space of field content.
It's definitely like I'm going to try and prove my credibility by saying these things now. Now, honestly, to me, I mean, it sounds like he puts those things, and it sounds impressive. He certainly knows the name of these different things, and he has stacked them on top of each other.
He's avoiding the thing. There's a guy named Timothy Nguyen who back in 2021 pointed this out about geometric unity, where there's a whole sort of like part of the paper where it's like, well, there's this thing called the Shiab operator that makes this complexity understandable to people who study physics. I don't know what that is anymore. I lost my notes to that. So that's literally in the paper. Like I lost my notes to what this function is, and that's what he points out. Like there's a paper here by Timothy Nguyen. It's titled, people can read it as PDF, that sort of originally explored this, A Response to Geometric Unity by Timothy Nguyen. People should read that. What the Sean Carroll here is saying is pretty much what any physics person that reads this paper, that's the
paper
conclusion
is
they come
written like somebody who's not addressing. I mean, in any academic field, you have a construction of the way that ideas are presented so that there can be some type of like unified way of assessing ideas. Eric's too much of a free thinker to be constrained by such things, it seems like. Where does it, let's listen just a little bit more. We got a little bit more here.
Top the space of metrics as a completely inadequate space of field content. What you've just said and what the aspersion that you have just cast, you are simply not qualified to say. What you have said is that I have given no reason. Let me imagine that paper, which was a draft rushed to get to an April 1st date, remains in a world where Sam Altman and Elon Musk continue to compete for better and better AIs. What would you say if at some point those AIs then got to that paper and said, holy cow, That is exactly what we've been missing. This thing solves all sorts of problems, and the problem that we have is that a group of influencers with a penchant for being, and this is becoming one of my least favorite words, although I didn't have any negative association until recently, debunkers.
So what if AI says you're wrong in the future, is Eric's rejoinder.
I mean, that is, if the AI says you're wrong in the future, you're in trouble, buddy.
It'd be nice if AI came around and said, I actually should be in the NBA. I should be playing two guard.
AI in the future will be telling me that this should be the 6-time award-winning Majority Report, ladies and gentlemen. Vox Populi wrote, wait, he published this paper on April Fool's Day? And this
He had to rush it to April Fool's Day.
Oh my God.
This is from that Timothy Nguyen paper. Unfortunately, the details for this unification, as far as the authors can tell, are hardly provided, and thus the central insights of the theory are not possible to verify. Our conclusion is that even supposing the previous technical concerns could be addressed, the volume of missing or inexplicit computations renders the formulation of geometric unity largely incomplete.
I will say this, that I have no doubt that Eric is light years, and perhaps that's the wrong analogy, more advanced in physics than I am.
For sure.
So I only suggest this analogy as a way of when I was like in, I don't know, maybe, I think it was, I can't remember, maybe it was like a freshman year of college, and had an assignment, I can't even remember what it was, in philosophy. And in high school, I don't think that I was aware of what philosophy was. We didn't have that authority. And I basically was supposed to write about, I don't know what it was, the pragmatists versus, I don't know what it was. But I decided instead I'm going to write my own philosophy. For the assignment. And the teacher just put at the end, the professor at the end of it was like, this was interesting, but this was not what what we're looking for.
You're like, how dare you?
Yeah, how dare you? You clearly don't know.
You're part of these education
I see.
influencers.
Someone's trying to disc me out of this. Do you not realize, I'm sorry, I need to compare and contrast two different of your philosophies because you can't handle the truth. You can't handle the true philosophy. Mine. Which is undoubtedly using when one group of kids show up at the parking lot with Bush beer and the other group of kids have Genesee and a fight breaks out. What can we learn from this?
Oh, man. I have the paper here. It's worse than you think.
Oh, my God. That was...
It was a real treat.
That was a real treat. That was pretty impressive. Well, we're not going to get to the other part. We got to read some IMs and get out of here. That was fantastic.
Maybe have Sean on. Watch the whole thing again.
Is there a place where we can send an email to Eric and ask him to do more of those debates? Just
Eric versus Science Communicators. I would subscribe monthly.
Hey, folks, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and check out our daily show. We do it every day at 12 p.m. Eastern for about 2.5 hours. We even take phone calls. You should check that out.